Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network. This is our special Saturday edition called Step Up Your Game with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Hanford, and I'll be discussing topics to help you make better decisions to increase your productivity, increase your sales, and improve your overall marketing. Visit toughdecisions.net to sign up for our free weekly entrepreneur email. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Tim Allison. Tim, welcome to our Saturday show.
Hey, Dan, it's a great pleasure to be with you.
So I want you to get us started by talking to us a little bit about your background and where you are right now as an entrepreneur and where your current focuses are.
Fair enough. Keep in mind that this professional career goes back almost 40 years. So let's make
we got about like 20 minutes now.
Yeah, exactly. So look, cut my teeth in corporate sales, working in Toronto in my 20s, had one of the best paying sales jobs in the entire country, poster child for what success was supposed to look like, and miserable as hell, just with my kids growing up, without a present father and just so caught up in that, and chasing other people's goals and objectives. So best known in the early days for quitting, moving to this rural fishing village in Nova Scotia, Canada with my wife, and starting an educational software company that struggled for a few years, and then with a change of attitude really took off. So the naysayers that were laughing at me at the beginning stopped laughing when sales passed about 10 million or so. From there, I did that for about 20 years. I worked as a small business coach with really businesses from just about every possible sector of the economy, mostly on business process and a lot on financial management and, understanding profit margins and, and how to squeeze the dollars out, the difference between the, maybe making a decent living or working your butt off and not being profitable. Did that for about a dozen years. And then on my 60th birthday, instead of retiring, I decided it was time for one last entrepreneurial venture. So just a little over a year ago, I founded Screw the Naysayer Productions. I wrote a book called Screw the Naysayers, They Suck Anyways. I have a podcast, which just the other day hit the front page of the iTunes career section, so I was pretty pumped about that. But it's also called Screw the Naysayers, and primarily about encouraging young people to look at entrepreneurship as a really viable career option. And also, quite frankly, because I think, our education system is doing an appalling job of preparing kids for a world where they're going to have to create their own, I could say kids because, at my age, but people in their 20s and millennials and Gen Z, they're going to have to find their own opportunities. So that was the focus of it. And these days, I'm in the process of putting together an online mentoring and support platform for young entrepreneurs to try and help them create the kinds of companies and careers that they would like to be able to do. So it's been a wide gamut of things, but mostly focused on taking control of your life and knowing the life you want and having the courage to live it.
And I love that part of what you're doing. And I would, love to even help you, and support you and even give you some promo spots on our show, especially this Saturday show that can help, get your business going even more. Especially, I know you have a podcast that kind of goes along with this as well. I think it would be some great synergies there. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing in young entrepreneurs and what are some things that you're seeing as some of the hardest things and some challenges that they have in getting started as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right on. It's really interesting because I've actually did a fair bit of research. I was blessed to have a university co-op student working with me this summer. And so we actually did a lot of research here. It's in Canada, but I'm really quite convinced it has global sense of reality to it. And what we did is we talked to young people who were thinking about and wanting to start their own businesses. And it's really interesting, Dan, because the first thing they said is that they are really, even though they grew up with greater familiarity with technology, and, you can get any question in the world answered on the internet. There's absolutely no piece of information that if you want it bad enough, you can't find. And there's been no generation better prepared to get that information. But interestingly enough, what they're saying is that they're overwhelmed by the amount of information. And there's a massive trust problem. It's there with the millennials, but it's there big time with the Gen Z. They don't trust us, Dan. They don't trust those of us that are, of older ages, because it just feels like, as a number of them said, the next person that offers them a free webinar where they go on and it turns into be nothing more than a sales pitch to buy something. And then you're told that you can get this $9,000 value for $129 because you're special, or, something like this, which is the kind of the formula we all know it. It's out there everywhere. It's pandemic. It has really turned off this generation. So the first thing they said is that they're not being taught anything in school about finding their own opportunities. They're not being taught how to, create a business. They're overwhelmed by the number of people that are trying to make a buck off them as they struggle to get answers, and they can't get answers to specific questions. Like, because everybody has bought into this model that they should be able to make money off these folks by lying on a beach in Thailand or Hawaii or something and just selling passive income. Here's a course and all your answers are there. And of course, when you really can't ask specific questions. So it's caused a lot of consternation. And I think the other thing that has really created quite a generational disconnect is that in the millennials, and certainly with Gen Z, we have, one of my guests put it really well the other day, Judd Borikoff was his name, but he put it this way. He said, young people today are not willing to trade meaning for dollars. In other words, when I was growing up, as a boomer, it was all about the money. And you really didn't concern yourself too much with how the business was making the money, as long as it was legal and you weren't going to go to jail for it. But that's not working anymore. People are asking questions about the social conscious and the environment of a company, the environmental impact and all this kind of stuff. And they're finding it terribly difficult to find mentors that understand that, yes, they want to make money, and yes, they want to, have a good lifestyle and all those kind of things, but there are other things that are important to them and that need to be part of their value system, that need to be, a social entrepreneur or a social capitalist, as someone like David Meltzer would say. And there's just not a whole lot of people out there talking to them in that language. And so the end result is that they're just not sure what to do next.
And what are some of the strategies that you're now teaching them to try to, maybe test some of the ideas that they have about a product or a service or something like that, and, building that credibility and building that trust to be able to move forward with it?
Great question. So, one of the resources that's up there that's, and I'm always going to forget his last name, but if you just look up Lean Canvas, and the guy's first name is Ash, but it's a free resource out there, and he's got a Lean Canvas map is essentially a way to write a one-page business plan in in half an hour or half a day, if you're more human like me and you actually tend to be reflective on some of these answers. But it's a way of asking tough questions early on to make sure that you're focusing on actually solving customer problems. One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make and have always made and continue to make is that they create products or solutions based on what they perceive is the need of the market. If you use process, you use something like the Lean Canvas map, it forces you to think about the problem through the eyes of the customer, and therefore articulate your solution, in a way that aligns with it. So the days of these 30 or 40 page business plans that you had to go through in order to even, you may end up having to do that if you're going to go want to borrow a whole bunch of money or you need a lot of capital. But there are so many businesses today that you can start for a nickel. You could be, in love with kayaking on the, in the Gananoque, and you could put up a website, in a day or two, or just a landing page if you wanted, offering to provide guided adventure tourism, kayaking tours in the Gananoque region, and be live in business tomorrow, for, I don't know, $100, if you learn how to do this stuff yourself. So it's about using process, and it's about finding mentors, which is the thing that I'm really trying to address somewhat myself. But it is about finding mentors that you can talk to, that you can bounce ideas off. It is not about, and I'm very unpopular with a lot of business coaches out there when I say this, but it is not about paying for expensive canned, video training programs and all of those kind of things, because you're not going to find your secret sauce there. The other thing that we spend a lot of time on is limiting self-beliefs, because the problem that so many folks will have is, like, an example I always use, there's a young woman lives not far from me, and she's a dancer. She just grew up, was always one of the most talented young women in our community when it come to dance. And so she left rural Nova Scotia and she went to Toronto to follow her dreams, and she was teaching dance. But what she discovered is that, well, just because she loved to dance didn't mean that she really liked teaching dance to little kids and telling them how to put one foot in front of the other and all that kind of stuff, because it didn't have, that aspect of the teaching didn't have any of the creativity and the choreography and all of the other stuff that she was interested in doing. So when she came home to this community and then said, well, I need to create a job, she decided that she was going to be a social media consultant, and I ran into her and I sat down and I sort of asked her why. And well, because I need to make money and, I know how to do this stuff. And I'm sure some people will pay me to help them do all, take pictures and figure out how to increase business using, social media, all of which was true, but it wasn't in any way related to what she was, interested in doing. And she had allowed herself to believe that she actually couldn't make a living with her art. And so I just sort of challenged her on it and said, well, why don't you just, start thinking about how you might use the things that you're interested in. And we had this 20-minute chat over coffee. And about 2 months later, I see this thing on Facebook that she's rented a studio in the local community, upstairs, and that, she's hosting poetry slams and creative dance, competitions and film nights and, teaching pole dancing and to women, like not just to young kids and all this kind of stuff. And so she's created this whole business. It would not have happened if somebody hadn't said, just because people tell you can't make a living, doing the things that you really enjoy, doesn't mean you have to believe it. And once you sort of kick down those limiting self-beliefs and start asking what if or how could I, it's quite remarkable the ideas that come, out of the heads of creative people. And entrepreneurs, in my mind, are we create. That's what we do. Every business person that's ever been founded, we're creating something.
Yeah, we're creators, we're innovators, and we're thinkers, and we're problem solvers. And one of the things that I liked what you said just a few minutes ago was about the business plan thing. Because when I started to get into, I would say true entrepreneurship, because I've been an entrepreneur ever since I was a little kid, selling things and going door to door and candy and, mowing lawns and all that kind of stuff. But when I actually got a real business, I, was sitting down. I'm like, everybody is saying you got to create a business plan. You got to create a business plan. I'm like, I don't want to sit down and create a stupid business plan, And I didn't really need to go get money. I just wanted to start something. And all of the businesses that I own right now, I started from scratch, and not one of them has ever had a business plan. Yeah. Now, I say no business plan. Now, obviously, there's been a plan, but it was not like you said, a 50-page, SBA loan, all this stuff drawn all out and coming up with random figures about how much money I need to spend on staples and crap. And I don't know. I don't know how much I'm going to spend on staples.
Yeah, exactly. You're making such a great point when you use the word random, because that's what that crap is. That's like stick your finger in the air and guess, eh? So, what you should focus on is, answering questions that we actually know how to answer. That's what I really love about that lean canvas map. It starts out by talking about, think of the mistakes people make when they start businesses. Oftentimes they'll focus on too broad of a market. You even think about something like Facebook. Even when you think about something like that, coming out, it was not intentionally designed for mothers and fathers and grandparents and all that kind of stuff. So, they said they were going to go after the college market. Now, it grew and it became this massive thing, but you have to have some sort of idea in your mind of who the early adopters are going to be. And so it forces you to think about, a niching down, which is something we hear about a lot today. Well, it doesn't limit the future growth of your company, but niche down to understand what the early adopters might look like. And then look at what problem you want to solve. But again, what kind of mistake do we often make? We're too general in describing the problem. Like starting a business is hard. Well, yes, it is. And so it's a problem, but there's not anywhere near enough detail there. So, this process, Ash will tell you that, to use the 5 why system, and any of you that are parents will know what that's like. If you've got a young kid, you tell them something and they say, why? And you answer that question and they say, why? So start with that big picture problem and ask, well, why is that a problem? Do that 4 or 5 times and you've got yourself a more defined problem. Unique selling proposition, so let's just keep it simple. He says the what you should do is you think about what is the real want, what does the customer, your early adopter really want, what time frame are you promising to deliver it in, a little bit about how you'll do it, and 140 characters or less. So this is language that I find when when I'm talking to young entrepreneurs and I say, look, just try this. Man, they get it. Like it's their vocabulary. It's not about grammar. It's not about fancy language, and it's not about big, long financial charts that as they say, are just all a bunch of just humoring people is what you're doing there.
Yeah, it's using the KISS principle, keep it simple,
Exactly.
stupid. I mean,
Exactly.
the simpler that you can keep things, the more people will be able to do them because it's not as complex and it's not as complicated. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about too is about this lean canvas map. Obviously, you can use this lean canvas map that you're talking about to try to, get your idea on paper and just one page, that kind of thing, to really condense your idea and see about the problems. What kind of fail safes or measures or metrics would you suggest for somebody who is, got a product or a service or an idea, or they got multiple ones? They're trying to figure out maybe, which one should I go with? Because I think one of the biggest flaws and issues that I see, especially in the software development and the technology space, is people coming up with like software programs and spending hours and hours and like thousands of hours developing code, and there's like hundreds of lines of code, and all of a sudden they get this thing launched a year and a half, 2 years into it, and realize that nobody wants it.
No, I mean, that's spot on. So I mean, that canvas map, I mean, there are other ways of doing it. I just find this one a really simple and easy way to do it, but it's designed to kill bad ideas, because it forces you to answer questions at each stage of the process. And what will happen is you will kill a lot of ideas. So you just take out the next, virtually pull out the next sheet, the next sheet of paper, whatever, but just go on to the next canvas map and just, do it again. But, in terms of what you're talking about with software, you absolutely, whether it's for software, whether it's for online training programs, or whether it's an app, which is, I was talking to somebody who's been working on developing a new app recently. I mean, you have to come up with a minimally viable product. You have to say, what would I have to do to come up with an absolutely minimally viable product? Something that I could, and it may simply be a prototype that doesn't even have all the functioning or anything else. So you can actually get in front of live customers and you can show it to them. And, and even if you have to say, you and I in business have what if conversations with customers all the time, or if I do this, will you do this? Like, so if I have software that would do these things for you, and here's some screenshots or whatever that will show you how it would work, would you buy this? And don't just settle for these really glad, happy, oh, Dan, that's a great idea, because everybody's going to tell you that because they want you to go away. Are you willing to put your name behind something? If you've got a really good idea and, in your mind, you think this is worth spending thousands of hours of time and, and the money that's associated with that, if it's that good of an idea for you to justify that much time, there's somebody out there right now that is strongly motivated for you to succeed. You just have to find some of those people. They may agree to purchase in advance. They may agree to, provide a purchase order in advance in return for some incentive that it'll be, less expensive for them. I mean, there's a lot of ways, or they may end up investing in your business. They may turn around and say, this is great. I think we could do this together type of thing, and have resources. I mean, so, what you need to do is, and this is the other mistake, and it just kind of goes hand in hand, but everybody gets so secretive. Oh, I've come up with this idea, Dan, and it's going to kill it. Don't tell anybody, man. I got to get it built, before somebody else beats me to the market. What you got to do is get up on the soapbox. And in this day, it's never been easier if you're spending any time on places like LinkedIn and others. And you got to tell the world what you're planning on doing.
Well, I think that's the power of programs like Kickstarter. I mean, you can launch a Kickstarter campaign and know within about, 2 or 3 days, with the buzz that gets created around, Kickstarter campaigns, whether or not you actually have a market for that. Now, obviously, with Kickstarter, there's a finite audience there. So you have to, bring in other people to it. Like if you have a following on LinkedIn, drive those people that you think might be interested in your product, choose the Kickstarter campaign to see if they're willing to put up their money and open up their wallets. I think that what you just said is the crux of it, because you can ask anybody whether they like something, and to your face, they're going to tell you they like it.
Exactly.
But until you say, well, since you like it, will you go ahead and put $100 on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Then they start to, back up a little bit,
Yeah. And that's your point. I mean, it's a great point, because you're not asking for their firstborn child or a mortgage, but you are asking them to open their wallet and confirm that they do really believe what they're saying. It's honestly never been easier to start a business. Like I say, the challenge and the mistakes that people are making, they're the same mistakes entrepreneurs have been making forever. It's just that the potential solutions we have now are being so badly underutilized. I mean, it's just so easy to test your market as long as you're willing to listen. And that's the other problem. If people aren't really prepared to listen and they've got it in their mind that this is a great idea and it's going to be great no matter what, well, okay, go build it. And if you have a big inheritance and you don't need to worry about it, that's great. I mean, it's a waste of your time, but if money's precious and what's really sad about it is that those are the entrepreneurs that when they do get burned, then, later in life, they'll be caught in a job that they don't like. They'll start thinking about it again. Maybe they do have a really good idea this next time around, but they're really reluctant, to go back and try it again because we always fear failure more than we believe we can get what we want in life. And that only gets further entrenched in us. It's one of the reasons why I'm so focused at this stage of my life and talking to, kids that are, say, 15 to 25 years of age, because the longer we live and the more negative experiences we have or we see other people experiencing, and the more time we spend immersed in this naysayer culture, we have a reduced ability to believe that we can get what we want in life. And even those of us that know that what we believe is the single biggest determinant of what's actually going to happen in our life, we still fall victim, at times we still fall victim to feeling that, well, maybe I can't do it. Instead of asking, well, if there are barriers here, but what would have to happen for me to get what I want in terms of business or life. So
this lean canvas map, is this something that you provide through your program that you have with us?
I can, but I mean, I'm telling you, just anybody just go to Google and, Google, lean canvas. I'm so embarrassed that the guy's name is escaping me here. I know his first name is Ash. Ash Moira, Maurya, Ash. And his company is called leanstack.com. I have no vested interest here. I don't get paid anything to say that or anything like that. He doesn't even know me, but it's free. And he's got little videos built into the thing, Dan, so that when you try to fill it in, you just mouse over the, what do they mean by, what are my early adopters, profile. And he's got a little 30-second video explaining what you should be thinking about there. Guy's done a really nice job of it. And, there are, for bigger organizations, you can scale up and you can buy enterprise licenses so everybody can collaborate on these things. But for as an individual that just isn't looking at starting, or, you and I have existing businesses, but I use it all the time when I just, I'm thinking of trying a new product. I just, grab it and plug it in. And yeah, I would just so endorse that. Leanstack.com would be the easiest place to grab that.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to follow you and get some more information from you, or even jump on your podcast?
Yeah. So the easiest way to get me is, and this is so much fun to say, is www.screwthenaysayers.com. And of course, my whole brand is around that. So if you're a podcast listener, if you just, look up the show, it's in all the normal places, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, SoundCloud, all that kind of stuff. Screw the Naysayers podcast. But all the links are on my webpage, and anybody who is interested in in starting a business, anybody that's in particular a young person that's looking to start a business, I just love to hear from you, folks. I'm in full blown mentoring mode right now, so it's a unique opportunity for people to reach out, and I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. My profile is just Tim Allison with with one L. So yeah, appreciate it.
Well, and on the show notes that can be found at toughdecisions.net, Tim will also be putting the links to your social media profiles as well as the screwthenaysayers.com website. We really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me and sharing with our audience and sharing with our listeners with your knowledge and your background. And look forward to continue to follow you as you continue your journey as an entrepreneur, and look forward to having you on a future podcast as well.
Hey, right on, Dan. It was wonderful talking to you, and for sure we should follow up.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.